Lesson 6. Out of unity you arise. The return to unity is your growth. The mind discovers the path of return while the heart provides the key to each stage along the way. Dear friend, numbers and cycles. Numbers. A significant result of the acquisition of esoteric information is that you progressively become more aware of the unitary aspect of knowledge and therefore of the unity of things. Present-day attempts of science to produce unified theories won't be successful as long as the individuals who strive to establish them do not comprehend that the unity of nature can only be attained through the raising of man's level of consciousness without separating life from matter. The reflection of this unitary, or unified, aspect produces the points common to symbolism, numerology and cycles. The first thing to consider in numerology is the difference between figure and number. The best way, or the most adequate way given the circumstances, to describe the difference is to state that the figure is the body and the number the soul. This seems obvious from an esoteric point of view. There are 10 primary numbers from 1 to 10. Each of the numbers is the body which comprises all the vibratory energies and all the laws which rule this particular level. Any other number can be reduced to one of these primary numbers by means of numerical reduction. For example, 211. 2 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4, therefore the primary principle of 211 is 4. As it enters into the framework of the quaternary, 211 partly receives its influences. Therefore the first thing to do in numerology is to learn the symbolic value and the meaning of numbers 1 to 9. 10 is a special case which should be studied along with 1 because the numerical reduction of 10 is 1. The first 10 numbers and their primary characteristics. 1 and 10. 1 is the symbol of unity in its first manifestation. It is without nuance. Note that every number which is reducible to 1 has to go through 10. Example, 55. 5 plus 5 equals 10 and 1 plus 0 equals 1. Everything which has a unitary, or undivided, characteristic within the manifest goes through 10, that is 1 plus the infinite, symbol 0. This notion is contained in the sentence, I am the Alpha and the Omega. We said, Lesson 3, that man reaches a state of unitary consciousness in levels 1 and 10 and those only. In the others, his consciousness is trinitarian. We should not forget, however, that if 1 is the subtle, spiritual unity, 10 is also unity but in the solid world of matter. 2. The number 2 is the symbol of duality, the symbol of the separation of the sexes, of space-time etc. Any number with a numerical reduction of 2 has a double characteristic, a characteristic of duality. The number 2 also concerns wisdom. Superstitious people say that 2 is the number of evil, which is not accurate. Duality is necessary for manifestation and consequently, it is the first principle to allow for man's evolution. Note that 11 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 2. 11 is the number of our world's negative, involutionary forces. It is a prime number. It cannot be divided except by 1 or by itself and the result is either the number itself or 1. Each time we encounter a prime number higher than 10 there is an element of free will, and freedom. 3 is the number of Trinity, the 3 aspects of the invisible man's consciousness. 3 is the number of creation. 1, through differentiation, gives to other elements. Lesson 2, Figure 2. The number 3 concerns intelligence. 12 is the first number whose numerical reduction is 3. 12 is the number of the signs of the zodiac and above all the number of the obligatory steps after every evolutionary threshold. 4 is the number of the quaternary. It corresponds to the framework in which man's evolution takes place. 4 corresponds to the first day of creation, that is, man's entry into space-time, level 4. The number 4 concerns mercifulness and esoteric problems. Every number whose numerical reduction is 4 concerns the solid aspect of things. 13 is the first number the numerical reduction of which is 4. 13 is at once the number of death, of love, of the purifying fire, of the eternal. Like 11, 13 is a prime number, consequently man is free in the quaternary. 5 is the number of man. Every number which can be numerically reduced to 5 concerns man or an aspect of humanity, often aspects of strength, of seriousness. 14 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 5. 14 equals 1 plus 4 or 7 plus 7, which concerns the twofold aspect of man's occult septenary. 6. The number 6 concerns beauty, harmony. It symbolizes the union of the two worlds, see the hexagram. It is the number of balance which contains two trinities, 3 plus 3. 15 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 6. Note that 15 greater 5 plus 5 or 3 times the number of man. At level 6 man can contact his higher trinity. 7. The number 7 is at once very important and very complex. Every number which can be numerically reduced to 7 concerns spiritual victory. 7 also concerns the 7 days of creation, the 7 days of the week, the 7 double laws which rule and govern the manifest world through the planetary geniuses. 16 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 7. The symbolism of 16 includes 8 plus 8 or 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. 16 expresses the fact that 7 rules the quadruple aspect of the quaternary or the twofold evolutionary field of man. 8 plus 8, involution and devolution. 8. The number 8 is the number of splendor, that is the dazzling transformation of the man who finally recovers his original faculties in the course of evolution. Every number which can be numerically reduced to 8 concerns man's evolutionary field, magic, alchemy or astrology. The number 8 written horizontally O is the symbol of infinity. 17 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 8. 17 is a prime number and the symbol of man's liberation by means of his recovered original faculties. 9. The number 9 is the number of the foundation, that is the basis of the invisible, of its conjunction with our physical world. Every number which can be numerically reduced to 9 is linked to the 3 ways of initiation. 9 equals 3 plus 3 plus 3, way of rigor, fire, way of balance, and way of mercifulness, water. They are also linked to universal justice. 9 is the key which opens the astral world. 18 is the first number with a numerical reduction of 9.18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6, the number of the beast in the apocalypse. It is the number of the man who incarnates into the world of matter in which he is covered with the skins of beasts, the physical body. Use of the numbers. We purposely give only a few elements about numbers. We only provide the basis. We advise you to number a series of pages from 1 to 10 in your workbook. After every work session in the oratory or after each night, whenever you obtain a revelation or an intuition relating to a number, note it in the corresponding page. Thus, each one will progressively obtain his own numerological system. The system you establish is the only true numerology for you. Make sure, when you use the numbers, that your work doesn't turn into intellectual juggling. An essential use of numbers should allow the accurate, as much as possible, interpretation of the data received through inner experiences. On the other hand, it should also allow you to direct the higher self's attention onto a specific point. The generalization of numerology in Kabbalah takes place through gematria. A number is assigned to each letter, see Lesson 5, Figure 2. This permits the attribution of a numerical value to everything through its name and to know in this way the level which is primarily concerned. For example, in the following names, Achad, which means unity, is written with the letters Aleph Ched Daleth. This gives 1 plus 8 plus 4 equals 13 and next 1 plus 3 equals 4, number of the quaternary and number of Jupiter. It is the unity manifested in the quaternary at the level of Jupiter. Abba, Ahibba, which means love, is written with the letters Aleph He Bet He. This gives 1 plus 5 plus 2 plus 5 equals 13 and next 1 plus 3 equals 4. Therefore we can see that unity, Achad, and love, Abba, have a common point through the number 13 and the number 4, Jupiter. The level in which mercifulness, the daughter of love, is highest. If we operate in our language on proper names, we can use the Hebrew alphabet in the same way to find the best resonance. For example, the name Satan. We obtain 60 plus 1 plus 9 plus 1 plus 50 equals 121, and next 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals 4, and next 12 plus 1 equals 13, and 1 plus 3 equals 4. It is up to you to interpret this result. The practice of gematria is not without drawbacks. If we practice it intensively, it may enter our psychic code. As a result of this, we could be in trouble if our higher self uses this code to answer us. If the code of gematria is easy to use, the decoding, on the other end, is complex and sometimes impossible. The cycles are one aspect of numerology. They represent both its active aspect and its realization. We are going to study the most important cycles. Cycle of 2 is the first cycle which manifests. As we said, it is the cycle of duality. It is comprised of an active and a passive phase. To illustrate this, the universe has an active phase of expansion which lasts about 6 billions of our years, then a passive phase of contraction of about the same duration. The passive-active equivalence is always realized in a cycle of 2. A good symbolic representation of the cycle of 2 is the drawing of the sine wave. Cycle of 3. The cycle of 3 can be symbolized by the triangle. It is an animation cycle in two possible directions, symbolized by the triangle pointing upward, which represents the world of life, the spiritual world, and the triangle pointing downward, which represents the world of matter. In the cycle of 3, there are 3 phases, 2 of which are active and 1 passive, or 2 passive and 1 active. As a result, the active-passive balance can only be attained when 2 cycles of 3 are completed. Therefore 6 is the number with which the cycle of 3 recovers its balance. An important occult law which governs the world is hidden here. Involution and later evolution only take place through a series of unbalances. A pure and continuous balance doesn't allow for evolution. This imbalance is the necessary sin of the fall from grace, which, for man, permits the access to the knowledge of life and death. It is neither a fault nor a mistake, it is a necessity. The important point is that the sequence of positive and negative imbalances should be neutralized and lead to an overall equilibrium. Cycle of 7. Cycle of 7 is the cycle of man's head, whereas the cycle of 12 is the cycle of man's body. The exercise we propose in the oratory work concerns these 2 cycles. There is then a link between them. They are moreover linked to the solar cycle of the day. The cycle of 2, day and night. The head cycle follows the order below. 1. Right eye moon. 2. Right ear Mars. 3. Right nostril Sun. 4. Left eye Venus. 5. Left ear Mercury. 6. Left nostril Saturn. 7. Mouth Jupiter. The use of the cycle of 7 works in agreement with Cornelius Agrippa's works on the subject of all planetary geniuses. In Lesson 2, we learned of the existence of the 7 double laws which rule the visible and invisible manifested world. Each of these laws is fully enforced by a planetary genius, a type of entity which has no self-consciousness but has intelligence. Only an initiate can modify his function. Cornelius Agrippa says that the action of the planetary genius is actually the quality of the energetic radiation assigned to every planet, occurs as follows. Each genius has a solar time of radiation. Every day for 24 hours there is a sequence of priority for the action of the 7 planetary geniuses, Figure 1, p. 11. Each of them acts in turn for the duration of a solar hour, which is the time flowing between sunrise and sunset, divided by 12. The night time equals the time flowing between sunset and sunrise, divided by 12. The solar hour, and the night hour, do not have equal duration except during the equinoxes. In winter daytime is shorter than nighttime and the reverse in summer. We need to understand the priorities within the cycles. Remember that, all is in everything. Look at Figure 1. For instance, let's start with Saturday. All day Saturday, Level 3, Saturn, has priority starting with sunrise. As soon as the second solar hour begins, Level 4, Jupiter, has priority but nevertheless under Saturn's control because it is Saturday. Then, during the third solar hour, Level 5, Mars, has priority but still under Saturn's control, and so on all day long. Sunday, Level 6, the Sun, has the control of the day. Within the time of activity of a planetary genius, a sequence of priorities occurs on the basis of the solar and the night minute. We have 5 priorities of 12 solar minutes each, occurring in the following order: a priority which concerns the fire element both in beings and things, a priority relating to the element air, a priority applied to the element water, a priority applied to the element earth. The 5th priority is that of the quintessence. It strives to re-establish the balance between the 4 elements. For the shorter minute cycles, and next the cycle of seconds, the mechanisms of influence of the planetary geniuses are similar to the hour cycles. The minute cycle, however, is more subtle and weaker in its influence. More so with the cycle of seconds. Cycle of 12 is one of the most important cycles in esotericism. It can be found in the 12 Apostles, the 12 Labors of Hercules, and more specifically in alchemy with the 12 Doors of Ripley and the 12 Keys of Basil Valentine. Whichever symbolism is used, the cycle of 12 represents the 12 phases necessary for each evolutionary step. Refer to Figure 2, pages 12 and 13. As a basic model, we are going to study the Sun's yearly cycle in the 12 signs of the zodiac. For an occultist, the celestial constellations are only guide points. The action of the solar cycle only happens because the Earth's axis is tilted in relation to the plane of the ecliptic. In fact, if the Earth axis were perpendicular to the ecliptic plane, there would be no more seasons and the varying cycle of terrestrial activities would become fixed. What counts is the apparent height of the Sun in relation to the terrestrial equator. Line 5 of Figure 2 shows the variation of the apparent height of the Sun in relation to the terrestrial equator. The origin of the cycle is the vernal point in astronomy, and the Sun entering the sign of Aries in astrology. Line 9. The curve you obtain is identical to the sine wave of cycle 2. Line 2 shows the positive, active and the negative passive phases, symbolized by the 2 hexagons which can be inscribed into the dodecagon. One of the 4 elements is assigned to each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. We have 3 sequences of 4 elements represented on line 3, symbolized by the 3 squares inscribed in the dodecagon. Then we have the 4 phases, line 5, positive ascending, 1 2 3, positive descending, 4 5 6, negative descending, 7 8 9, negative ascending, 10, 11, 12. These 4 phases are symbolized by the 4 triangles inscribed in the dodecagon. To each of the 12 elementary phases is assigned 1 sign of the zodiac, line 9, an organ of man's body, line 8, an alchemical element, line 7. The nature of the alchemical element provides each phase with a life aspect, an invisible spiritual active aspect, or a matter aspect, a dense passive aspect, line 6. Therefore, from the spring equinox, E, to the summer solstice, S, we have 2 active life signs and a passive life sign, or life matter life. This gives a phase of 3 signs in which there is great vital activity. From the summer solstice to the autumn equinox, we have 2 passive signs and an active sign, or matter life matter. This gives a 3 signs phase in which the active energy decreases. These 2 first phases constitute the positive plus part of the cycle. The 6 signs constitute a cycle of 6. As we previously mentioned, for the cycle of 3 and the cycle of 6, the balance is only recovered at the end of the 6th sign, which is symbolized by the entry into the sign of Libra. During this positive part of the cycle, the organs which are activated in man's body are the feet, the kidneys and the hands. Therefore man's physical work should be important. And as physical work produces toxins in the body, The kidneys, the organ which eliminates those toxins, are also very active. With the autumn equinox, we enter into the negative passive part of the cycle. For the 3 signs 7, 8, 9, Libra, Scorpio and Sagittarius, we have 2 active and 1 passive signs, an active phase but, in a sense, directed toward the negative. This reversed active phase leads man to less activity which become minimal at the winter solstice. The signs 10, 11, 12, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, constitute the second phase of the cycle in which we have 2 passive and 1 active signs. This gives a reverse passive phase which is going to slow down the negative effects of the cycle, and by the time of the spring equinox we will have completed the second phase of 6 signs, which again will lead us back to balance. During this negative part of the cycle, all the assimilation and elimination organs of the body are active in order to prepare the next activity phase, which will start with the spring. The use of the cycle of 12, the symbolism of the organs which are linked to the signs, also concerns man's occult functioning. These 12 organs are in the service of each of the 7 organs of the head. See work in the oratory. Work in the oratory usual setup always start with the mirror exercise. Proposed exercise: spiritual awakening of the organs of the head and body. First phase, Monday morning during the solar hour following sunrise. Concentrate a few minutes on each of the 7 organs of the head in the numerical order proposed earlier. During the period of concentration, do not call for any energy. Concentrate on tuning the organ to the energy which is radiated at that moment. Second phase, once you have practiced the first phase on the 7 organs for 2 or 3 Mondays in a row, operate in the same way every morning but only on the organ of the day. The exercise concerning the mouth should progressively turn your speech into word. Third phase, look up figures 1 and 2. For each sign of the zodiac, choose preferably a Saturday in the second decant. Resume the meditation concentration exercise on each head organ. Strive to link it with the body organ corresponding to the sign of the zodiac. Saturday morning, at sunrise and in the first sign, Aries, mentally join the left nostril, Saturn, and the right foot. Then, during each succeeding planetary hour, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury and the Moon, mentally join the right foot still, but this time with the organ of the head corresponding to the planet. Pursue the exercise in the second decant of the sign of Taurus, in the same way but this time using the right kidney. For the signs dealing with the kidneys, consider the kidneys as organs of general purification. For the 6 last signs, concentrate on the fact that the function of the organ of the sign improves the organ of the head and its invisible counterpart. This exercise can only be practiced at these times of the year in the temperate zones of the northern hemisphere between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer. For the southern hemisphere, you should mark the beginning of the cycle at the moment when the sun of the northern regions enters the sign of Libra. The sine wave is the exact reverse in the drawing for the southern hemisphere. You can find the cycle of 12 in lunar influences. The equivalent of the sign of Aries is the sign crossed by the moon just after it has passed the head of the dragon. Using the lunar signs is very tricky because of their very short duration, less than 3 days, and because it is difficult to calculate and assign the lunar time. In addition, the work on this cycle leads to astral experiences which could create serious discomfort for one just starting or ignorant in these matters. Ora et labora. The philosophers of nature. Appendices and figures. Appendix #1, Jacob's Ladders. Appendix #2, Holy Night and Shabbat. Figure #1, Table of Planetary Hours. Figure #2, Cycle of the 12 Signs of the Zodiac. Appendix 1, Jacob's Ladders. We generally say Jacob's Ladder, but in symbolism there are actually 2 Jacob's Ladders. The first and more important ladder has 10 steps. In its symbolism, it reveals the path which has been covered. Each step corresponds to one of the 10 levels, one of the 10 planes of consciousness. In the course of our inner experiences, a sign will reveal the level we have realized within us, if the ladder is vertical. A horizontal vision of the ladder of 10 is very unlikely because as a symbol it means that the evolution journey is complete. A Jacob's ladder with 12 steps concerns the evolution of a plane within a level. A clue, which is often a symbol of one of the signs of the zodiac, indicates the path covered during this phase. A horizontal ladder in the course of an inner experience means that the step is complete and that an inner initiation will occur before the beginning of the next step. Appendix #2 Holy Night and Shabbat. As soon as we make some progress on the path and obtain a certain mastery in the operation of the descent of the energies, meditations on levels 1 to 10 as previously indicated, we may want to accomplish this descent quickly and powerfully for various reasons. Either to prepare for a magical or alchemical operation, for a health reason, to help